Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Make sure to please like, share and subscribe. Just kidding, you mad bruh.
Tonight's stories are a compilation of chilling, scary, deep wilderness encounters. Of course, as ever, as my young lad there said, please do like, share and comment, and don't forget to hashtag Team Fear. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's first story, entitled Monster Huntin'. Let's get straight into that. There was always folk tales in my town that a skinny devil lived in our woods. I always thought when I was a kid I'd be a hero and kill the beast. I regret attempting it for the rest of my life. It was late summer. It was one of the cooler days and I was 23 at the time. Me and my friends always thought of hunting down this creature everyone in our town believed existed. I had most of my friends come with me and we packed our rifles, shotguns, ammo and other supplies. We planned to hike until it was about to turn dark out and then put up the tents. We were pretty deep in the forest and now we'd got our tents up and built a fire. It was nice out, not too hot and not too cold. Everyone started to go to bed and then my friend Caleb said he had to go take a leak. As we all started getting settled into bed and we heard something, it was totally blood-curdling, a scream that I'll never forget. We all shot up and grabbed our guns, and by the time we got there to where the scream had come from, it was too late. And then we see the blood. It was on the ground. There was no sign of Caleb anywhere until someone looked up. There he was, stuck on some branches. He was dead. His arm and lower half of his body were completely ripped off. We were all horrified, wondering what did this. Then we heard this thing let out a deafening scream. Someone shot into the trees and we started running back to where our camp was. We knew we had to get there and get out of there fast. I looked behind me and in horror I seen one of my friends get grabbed into a tree. All I heard was a scream and then a crunching of bone. We kept running and we were almost back to the car when I turned and seen it. It was jumping just like a monkey, tree to tree. Then it grabbed someone else and took a bite out of his leg and then threw him to the ground with such force it would break concrete. We made it to the car and I started faster than any other time, reversing onto the dirt road to the highway and flooring it. I looked in my rearview mirror to see it was over 10 feet tall, arms as long as its body. It just watched us and then shrieked and disappeared. We made it to the police station and told them about what happened. They didn't believe us until they went and checked it out. Next thing I knew, some people came in dressed in black suits and then questioned me and my 5 friends that survived. They told us not to ever talk about what happened again. On the news, they said it was a freak bear attack. They never said how he died or anyone died or the injuries that they had because there was no way of saying a bear did that to them. Town history. Let's get straight into that. I won't say what town I live in, for privacy reasons, but by some living in or near it, it was nicknamed the Town of Full Moons. It's been said in our town history that, until the 1920s, people in there were believers of werewolves. It's stupid, but it makes for a good tourist attractions, such as the statue of a wolf in the park or the various wolf skeletons people found around. But there's one place people look only on the outside, and that's the old house nicknamed the Silver Shack. It's one spooky place on the outside, and the rumours don't help it. People claim to hear howling and see bright white eyes in the windows, or red eyes. My friends always tell contradicting stories. That might be part of the reason that I went to it too. Yes, I entered it, and well, it's not really haunted. Well, it's creepy, yeah. But telling you every single detail of what I've heard or saw or felt would be pointless and boring. There was this one interesting thing that I found. However, in the basement was some sort of jail cell. The room itself was pretty long. In the unlocked cell itself, I found a bunch of papers at the very back of the room. They were hidden in the darkest corner. Even with my flashlight, I could barely see them. I grabbed them and took them home to read. The scariest thing that happened in that building was the spider that I saw on my hand. Otherwise, it was just a creepy old house. Nothing more. The notes that I picked up were full of pieces of paper. They looked very old. Like really old. Like they were turning brown old. Using context clues on the top and bottom of each paper, I ordered them. The following is what they read. July 26th. It's been 4 months since we figured out the creatures that have been eating our sheep were, in fact, wolves. And 2 months ago we found out that those wolves could be living with us, blending in and wait for the full moon, where they would be at their strongest. I, being the best hunter this town had ever known, offered to search for the beasts and investigate who's human. I found someone who wasn't. The room was the basement of our headquarters, where we would discuss and debate suspects. 4 people would enter, 3 would exit. That's how it was planned. My assistants, Fred and Samuel, looked at the door of the jail cell, with me and a woman inside. Her arms and legs were in circular metal braces, all 4 being attached to chains Fred and Samuel were holding. I looked at the chained lady. "Mrs. Victoria," I said. "You are here right now because of the fact that we suspect you of being a werewolf. Confess now, and I could make it quick and easy." She was truly frightened, and was denying everything we said, to the howling reported coming from her home, to her stench compared to that of wolves. "Please! You must believe me! These aren't true! Let me go! Please!" She begged and begged as I smirked. "We'll see about that." I heard the grandfather clock upstairs chime, meaning that it was time. The more light fell through the window on the roof behind her. "It's over, Emily. When the moonlight touches your skin, the truth will kill you." She was on her knees, facing the ground. "Please, just please don't do this. What if I hurt you?" she asked depressively. "If you hurt me, Mrs. Victoria, we'll be even," I responded. So I signalled Fred and Samuel to do what was planned. They pulled on the chains, making the scared Emily go towards the window's moonlight by force, and she was touching the light. Her eyes faded into a white and then red colour. She was getting taller. The dress we captured her in ripping. She grew hair long and longer as her bones contorted and her face became pitch black. All intelligence she had faded and was replaced with a desire to rip apart and eat anyone around here. She was trying to reach for me, with the men outside yanking every time. I gestured them to release some of the chain and bring her closer to me. She growled and barked at my serious face. "I told you we could make this easy, but I guess you want to do this slowly." I pulled the silver blade out of my back. A machete made of silver, forged for my own hunting. 5 of the same beasts as her had been slain with this. I waited no time and swung once at the neck. She was even angrier now that she was bleeding fast. I swung once again, getting deeper in the neck. The voice of 1,000 dying dogs grew louder, and I could see my assistants getting disturbed, but I was too used to the sight. The 3rd swing was much harder, and the 4th had finally managed to get in halfway. She was choking on the blood spilling onto me. I swung again and again and again, her screams getting weaker and weaker. She was one swing away from that final strike. "Well, Miss Victoria, looks like you truly won't be the one eating this area of its society." I gripped my weapon harder than ever before. "It's been fun." I swung the machete into the final piece of her neck, as hard as the human strength in me would allow. The beast's head fell, with the body of the face turning back into what it had been before the moonlight. Fred unlocked the door, and the 2 came in. He gave me the key, and so I walked past the partners, through the moonlight. My hair rose. I made it to the bars, but instead of exiting, I threw my blade out of the door as my skin grew darker. I slid my hands through the door and I locked it before they grew too big. I put my key in my pocket of my ripping pants. I grew more facial hair in a few seconds than a man could ever in a full winter. My voice became gravelly. Said to the partners releasing the dead woman, "Would you like to hear a fact about werewolves, boys?" They turned in concern, looking at me with now widened eyes meeting my red ones. Samuel lost his words in fear. Chris. I opened my claw from its fist that it was in. They hate sharing meals. It's been 24 hours. I felt the need to confess something. So I'm writing on these papers from my fake study journal. I can't wait to tell the story of how these brave men gave their lives fighting the beast I killed. It will be beautiful, and the next time I identify a fellow pack member, I'll make sure I get this town to myself. Name unreadable. Wolf Hunter. I don't know what to make of these. Whether they're fake or real or what. I'm taking them to my town historian tomorrow. Christopher Williams is old as dirt, but he runs our mini museum for town history. I hope he might be able to date these. Fittingly enough, it'll be a full moon tomorrow. He's open all day and never seems to sleep. So what could go wrong if I visit him at night? Advice for midnight hikers. Let's get straight into that. You ever have the misfortune of driving back roads through the countryside at night? Sure, you'll occasionally pass lone houses with the orange glow of lights inside to remind you of the comforts of home. But most often than not, you may find yourself in a forest with nothing but the dim moonlight to keep you company. I stress that these things I'm about to tell you are in part a warning, partially instructions on what to do if you want to keep your sanity and safety. The creatures that attacked me and my friend that night are rare, though there will be some that will come up with nonsense about monsters in the woods like Sasquatch. No, I don't know if Sasquatch exists, but that's besides the point. I'm talking about werewolves. No, I know what you're thinking, werewolves. So overdone, so boring. No place for this horror site, right? Listen, you came here to be scared. You came here to read something spooky in the dead of the night. As you're comfortable in your bed or office, maybe relaxing during a break at work like I was when it happened to me. By coming here, by looking for something to scare you, you may somehow see this, and I could possibly save a life. It was a quiet night in the middle of the woods of East Texas. The gas station I worked at was part of a mum and pop owned section of land that I had struggling restaurant in the back that was closed for renovations after being damaged by Hurricane Rita 7 years earlier. It was unusually quiet that night, without the usual crickets and what have you. Sometime past midnight, we saw a deer run past the store, bounding away in a panic from something we never saw. Shortly thereafter, the burglar alarm for the old restaurant went off. There was nothing in there worth stealing, so me, at the time, I thought maybe it was an animal that snuck in. So what did I do? I pick up my maglite and walk outside to check. 5-10 feet through the yard to the back, I saw the front door was open. I reached in to check the door alarm and tried to remember the code to cut it off. That's when I felt that I wasn't alone. I sweeped my light across the room quickly, catching a glimpse, just a glimpse, of a thing barreling right at me. I didn't even have time to scream before it knocked me on my ass at the front porch of the restaurant. I stepped out into the moonlight, and that's when I fucking screamed. It had to be a foot taller than my 6 feet. It had short, shaggy fur, and arms that were too long, and a fucking wolf's head on top of a body built like a brick shithouse. The head was somehow way too big for it. Its body had a shaggy mane of fur. It didn't howl, it didn't snarl at me. It just made this god-awful scream. This god-awful scream that I can still hear if I think about it. It threw itself at me, but I stunned it by throwing my flashlight at it. I ran as fast as I could for the gas station and made it inside and slammed the door behind me as I tried to latch it. But this thing was right on me and kicked it open, just enough to reach in with that long, spindly arm and claw at me, with claws like Jinso knives at the end of its fingers. My coworker saw this and he was screaming too. I was sitting here, keeping it out by pressing my feet against the door despite its very insistent attempts to get in. And soon I saw my buddy step in to my left, train the store shotgun, this is Texas, at this thing and fire 2 slugs at near point blank range. The screaming on the other side of the door stopped, as did the frantic clawing. I scooted my way from the door and this fucking thing collapses in, door wide open. My buddy had shoved the gun into its mouth and pulled the trigger, splattering the inside of its mouth and back teeth with buckshot. A thick red stream of blood gushed out of its mouth onto the floor, pooling under its jaws. That's when it opened its eyes and began to crawl towards me. No fucking soul in its eyes at all, not an ounce, believe me, please. Just 2 black marbles, about the size of $50. My buddy tried to stop it, slamming it in the head with a shotgun like a club, but it just pissed it off, and so I took the store extinguisher while it was still down, and the 2 of us took to hitting it as hard as we could in the crown of the head until we were too tired to keep going, and the gun stock was cracked and the fire extinguisher had dents from its fucking skull. We both cried in fear and relief when we thought it was dead. Grown-ass men. Hell yes, I fucking cried, brother. When it started to move again, just a few twitches, we were both tired and terrified. I had no idea of what to do, so we tried to call the police. No signal. We pushed the thing into the walk-in freezer and barred the door with a shotgun and tried to come up with a plan. That's when we saw half a dozen reflection of eyes at eye level in the dark just on the other side of the gas pumps, watching us. A whole pack of the things. So we made a mad dash for my buddy's car parked out front. No gas station job in the middle of nowhere is worth having your guts eaten while you're still screaming. And they were on us quick. They tried to get at us, but we ran one of them over and bolted down the road towards Nacogdoches. They chased us until we started getting closer to civilization. We quit the job. We didn't want no part of that shit. The boss tried to ask about the blood, about the shotgun shells and why the freezer was a wreck and the doors were all broken. But we just lied and said we had no idea. So, okay, advice. Silver. It has to be given as a gift. I read this in a book, and unfortunately, we have no goddamn silver. If you absolutely are going to be killed by one of these things, have a silver sharp object on you, and fucking stab it in the eye or neck. Guns don't work. Fire don't work. Anything other than silver, you might as well just piss it off. I don't think we did anything other than that to those things that night. Wolfsbane. It's an old wives' tale, supposed to keep wolves and werewolves away. I don't know where you can get any wolfsbane, and I'm not a herbologist. After his incident, I moved to Dallas. Fuck the woods, I ain't going back. Stay out of them on a full moon. Please. The cabin in the woods. Let's get straight into that. When I was about 10, my dad, who was an avid hunter, told me a story that still gives me chills to this day. He was out one day hunting, as usual, with his buddies. When they sat down to make camp, since it was pretty late, they didn't stay up for too long and went to bed shortly after. He was the first one to get to sleep, and according to his friends, around 3 a.m. in the morning he was awoken to a strange humming sound. And back in the day, my dad was no wuss, so he grabbed his rifle and went to check it out. As he crawled out of his tent, he saw a humanoid woman figure dart behind a nearby tree. At this point he calls out to it. Nothing replied. He says that he was just standing there in the open, looking at the tree, when something grabbed his shoulder. He whirled around and it was just one of his 3 friends, who was also on the trip. He explained what he saw, and obviously not believing him, his friend went to go look. He checked it out and there was nothing, so my dad's friend went back to sleep. My dad, at this point, was too creeped out to sleep and went back to his tent and just sat awake for a good 20 minutes before finally falling asleep. When morning came, the hunting group packs up and walks along the forest trails attempting to get to their blinds. That's when one of the hunters noticed a pentagram hanging from the tree. He claims there was a whole row of them leading to a lonely cabin. They went to check it out, and being the men that they were, they checked inside the cabin. It was empty, but my dad did notice the humanoid girl looking through the window. See, now my dad didn't have a lot of trigger discipline, and he shot his gun by accident, hitting the girl. He then heard it screech and it ran through the door of the cabin. Since it was a small one-room cabin, there wasn't much room to move, and from there it was just a bloodbath. The way he described the scene of it running through the door and killing every hunter except him with her nails or claws or whatever they were. The only reason I'm here is because my dad faked his death and waited for it to leave, except it started eating his friends. He laid there for about 10 minutes watching that creature rip out his friend's organs and eat them. The creature finally left and he made a run back to his car. Mind you, he had to run a good 30 minutes. As he drove off, he claims he saw the creature in the rearview mirror, smiling at him, holding one of his friend's heads. To this day, he hasn't gone back out there. The worst part is the authorities claimed they investigated the area and found nothing. I refuse to believe my dad is crazy, and I don't think I'll ever go to the woods. Wow. Hope you all enjoyed those compilation of short stories there. Of course, please do let me know down below in the comments. Happy 4th of July to all of my American family and friends. Hope you guys are having a blast with the fireworks and the barbecues, having a good cookout. and having a great time together with friends and family. Don't forget to like and share, and don't forget to hashtag Team Fear. And above all,
remember, be safe, not sorry.
it's still going. So it's recording all this blah 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 big boobies.
I like big boobies.
Okay, so I'll finish my stories and I'll give you a shout. Okay?
Okay, but make sure to delete all the weird stuff.
Yeah, I will.
Big boobie Jack.
Go on in, handsome.